right. So Jeff runs a successful team in Canada. I've known him for a very long time. Super excited to be able to have him on here. Hopefully you guys take away some great things. He's going to be talking about the DISC profile and how we can utilize that to successfully connect with our clients. So Jeff, take it away.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Zara. I appreciate it. So I want this to be as interactive as possible. So maybe you can put, if you got questions, put them in the chat, and maybe Zara, you can ask them or interrupt me, and I'll just, because it's the more interactive, the better. So the goal today is on two things. Number one, understanding what your DISC is and how you're wired, and then how clients are wired and what about their DISC. And then how you can use that to move the client, forward in a way that works for the client. So we're going to talk about what a DISC. There's 4 DISC personality types. I'm going to give you some tips on how to identify it, and then some tips on how to work with different personality types, adapting your selling style to sell to the people the way they want to be sold to. And also the most common DISC combinations, because there's certain combinations in DISC that work well together, and they're usually common together. That's just our team. Okay, so what is DISC and everything you need to know? So there's 4 DISC behaviors. So the first one is D, which is decisive. A lot of realtors always want to pretend or want to think that they're a D, but really only 3% of the population are truly Ds. And I'll go through that in more when I'm going through the D. The next is I, or interactive. They're more, they're social people. S is stable, and C is cautious. So another way you can look at DISC is P for the D. There's Ds are all about power. I's are all about people. S is all about peace. And C is all about perfection. So the D type. So what Ds love directness. They like decisiveness. They like efficiency. They're bold, and they're influenced by what people can do for them or people's status. So Ds are naturally attracted to somebody that can do something for them. High D clients. Results matter to them more than clients. So if a D is speaking to you, you are worth their time. So you don't have to kind of impress them, because if they're speaking to you, you're worth their oxygen. It sounds very arrogant, but they can tend to be a little bit arrogant. They want somebody that can move towards instant results. They don't want to know about the nooks and crannies. They want to know if they have a question for something and they ask you, what do I have to pay for this house? They don't want to hear, well, it could be this, and well, let me check. They can handle with straightforward answers like, you know what, I'll let you know that exact number in an hour. They can handle that stuff. They can be very demanding, and they're very impatient. So don't keep them waiting or ramble. Their time is their biggest asset. They don't like to waste it. So again, if they're having a conversation with you, you're worth their energy. As an agent, you need to make sure you act quickly and confidently. Like I said, no wishy-washiness. They don't want you to, do anything that they feel is a waste of their time. So typically Ds, if you're talking to a person, a D is going to be somebody that's usually an entrepreneur. They're a director, they're a president, they're a vice president. They have some kind of leadership position. When I'm teaching this, your true D is a Donald Trump, where they will go through anything to get to the outcome, to get to the win, to the race. So again, 3% of the people that you deal with are Ds. The second personality type are I's. I's are all about having fun. So they have a sense of humor. They want to make you laugh. They want to have, they're very interactive. They love to tell stories with jokes. If you're showing them a house, they'll tell you, when I was a kid, I used to grow up in a house like this, and they're all into, having a good time. You'll see your I's identify themselves right away. They're usually the life of the party. They're ones that, move towards, the excitement of something. They're usually the ones that, if they're at a party or wedding, they're the ones that are, kind of out of control. they are all full of emotions. So most agents lead with an I. Most successful agents lead with an I. Where you have to be careful with I's is if you're a high I, you'll tend to, your biggest fear is being not liked. So I's can go overboard with being liked. And here's where I's kind of miss the mark with real estate is they're never usually going to lose a deal unless they're dealing with a true D, but they make the deal instead of, 6 months, let's say they take it 6 months when it could have been done in a month, because they're all love hanging out with the client, having fun, talking. Oh, this is so great. We're going to go out and look at some houses today. They're not about, kind of structure of where things are going to go. But the I is great when you manage it. You'll make a lot of business. So you don't want to give too many, high I's don't like a lot of details. So if you got a high I client and you're saying to them, well, this circuit breaker is this, and you're going to a lot of details, they don't want to, they want to think, where's the party? Where can I entertain people? What can I do with people? But that's most agents lead or have some kind of I, which frustrate D personality types. But I'm going to talk about that further on. S personality types. So this is the one you guys need to pay the most attention to. 80% of the people that you will deal with lead with an S personality type, and they're the most frustrating personality type to deal with. So they love stability, consistency, support. The biggest fear for an S is change. Well, guess what? Real estate is change. They're moving houses. It's a huge thing. People that are typical I's are government workers. And that could be, police officer, firefighter, nurse, teacher, anything that's guaranteed income, because they don't want any risk.
Jeff, you said I, but you meant S.
Sorry, S. I apologize. S personality type. 80% of the people that you deal with are going to be S personality types. So they, like I said, they're resistant to change. They find it very stressful. They want somebody who is loyal, trustworthy, and agreeable. As an agent, you have to be clear, get clearly defined goals, responsibilities, and roles throughout the transaction. You want to be clear about the relationship and not be too transactional. So when you call an S on the phone, they're the ones that are, no, we're just looking, we were just thinking, we were maybe going to do this, we were maybe going to do that. How you put them off if you're too pushy. So if I was meeting an S for a buyer consultation, I would say something like, Nazar, this process could take, maybe we might have to see 60 houses before you're able to, find the right one. Or when you walk through the house, you'll feel it in your stomach if this is the right one. And what you'll find with S's is their shoulders are, because they're nervous about meeting a salesperson, their shoulders up, and then they get really uncomfortable, and then they relax. And then all of a sudden, because what's happened, they're open to the process, because they think that they're going to go out with you and you're going to force them to buy a house. Okay. So they like peace, and their biggest fear is change. C personality type are the analyticals. So they're now, again, they're easy to deal with, because if you give them the data, that moves them forward. So they like details, they like data, they like structure, they like protocol, organization. They want to work with somebody that's very organized, prepared, and detailed. So if you're a high I and you're running to the appointment and you got papers flying everywhere, you're going to turn off a C personality type, because they're going to think you're going to miss something. They don't want small talk. They just want to get into the nitty gritty, and they will not be motivated to act unless the agent provides them with enough data. So if I'm dealing with a C personality type, what I'm going to say to them, before I meet, I'm going to know all the solds. I'm going to know all the history of the property, because they're going to ask you 15 million questions, which can drive a high I, crazy. A C personality type and D personality types are very cool. I and S's are very warm. So what a high I agent is going to do, they overcompensate for this person's not interest. They're thinking, oh my God, I got to make this person my friend, and something like that. Now, what you want to be mindful of with C's is that they are not going to, tell you, yes, we're going to buy a house. They are going to go home. They're going to crunch the numbers and things like that. So what I would say to a high C is, so when you went home and looked through the numbers, what do you think? What do you want to do? And then they'll come up with some analytical formula. It's frustrating dealing with high C's with condos because they're trying to get price per square foot. But if it overlooks the ocean or if it's downtown, the price per square foot is different. On a building here, if it's facing the lake, you're getting $200,000 more than if it faces the north side. But they want to go price per square foot, and they get caught up in all the details. So adapting your style. So I'm going to go through some different styles or combinations that's more common. So what you'll see, I'm a 99D and a 99I. I lead with my I because I care more about people than their outcome, unless I'm angry, and my I goes down and my D comes up because then I want outcomes. So D's want results. I's, want to help people. You will see D's and I's will a lot of time go together. What you'll find when you do your own disc, if you guys don't have a link to a disc, Nazar will reach out to me and I'll send that out to you guys. It's free. And it's, again, understanding how you're kind of wired. So if you're, the realtors will always say, oh, I want to be a D. They think the D's are the best thing. D's are hard to deal with because they're very demanding, right? So you can, you irk them the wrong way and you can lose them as a client, because if you're not fast enough for them, you're not getting outcomes. So D's and I's go together. Here's what doesn't happen very often is an I and C, because an I is kind of all over the place and C's are very organized. But you might find that somebody's that's got a good personality, that's a people person, goes into accounting, but then they learn to bring up a C. But you will very rarely see ICs. I've got 2 of them on my team. So it's funny because, when I have to coach them on something, I have to get analytical with them so that they understand kind of process. S's and I's often go together. The ideal thing for a successful real estate agent is a high I, high S. You seldomly see like I said, the I with the C, but you'll see I's with S's, or you can see an S and C together. S and C also goes together. My wife is a 99S, 99C, and I think that's why we get along so well together, because we're polar opposites. I push her, she pulls me back. Very rarely I talked already about the I and the C that go together. So again, if you're a high I, you got to make sure that when you're dealing with people that you do not go, overboard to try to be liked, because that's your natural thing. So you kind of have to slap yourself, think, okay, bring it in a little bit. And if you're a high S, you have to, I'll talk about scripts and the disc personality types. So a goal when you're having a script, you have a script to get an appointment. That's really what it wants to do. So where D's need scripts, because if you take a straight line from the lead coming in to the appointment at the bottom, the relationship or the rapport is built when you're off script. So what D's need a script so they build rapport, because they naturally just want to go and hunt and kill and move on. So script helps D's build rapport. High I, script helps you guys stay on track with where you're going, because you'll go, we're talking about soccer with the kids, and all of a sudden, yeah, we're here to sell houses. A C, it gives you, or an S, it gives you permission to ask for the appointment, because S's will tend to not want to ask for the appointment because they don't want to, make somebody uncomfortable. And then C's, it gives them a process so they know, okay, if I do A, B, and C, I will get to the appointment. These are some great books that I recommend to everybody to read. Stop Squatting on My Spurs by Angel Tucker, sorry. That is a phenomenal book. She was a realtor and she wrote this book. It's very, very good. The Social Styles Handbook by Larry Wilson, and Versatile Selling by Larry Wilson. These are excellent disc books. I'd recommend for you all to read these books because it'll really help your sales career.
Jeff, can you quickly chime in and tell me if I'm an agent and I meet someone, well, let's just assume it's on the phone. What are some key indicators that's going to allow me to be able to quickly identify which one of those disc profiles is their dominant? And then is it easier to do so in person? And if so, again, what are the non-verbal cues you're looking for that also say the same thing or help you identify who they are so that you know how to best approach them in the style that they want? Because you're right, you know, my personality type is D. And so when I'm meeting with, you know, very high C's, they like want all the data. I'm like, just shut up and do it. Right. And so,
Wait, what, Nazar? You're a D?
yeah, so it's very difficult. Right. And so
I know
unless
what
I,
you're talking.
yeah, because they also want to tell me all the story, right? The S's and the C's just want to tell me all these stories. I'm like, I love and I appreciate you, but just freaking tell me the bottom line.
Yep.
And so that's just how I work. And so when I need to be with a client, then I need to be able to quickly identify who they are so that I can, even though my natural tendency is to be very short and quick, I need to, you know, give more data, give more information, be a little bit softer so that I don't piss them off.
Right. So again, here's the thing, the 5 words that will help any sales career is who, what, where, when, and how, sometimes why. So you want to, when the lead comes in, you want to ask them, so it depends what house they're looking at. They're all just looking. So that's your first question. So you then want to say the follow-up question, what made you interested in so-and-so area, whatever area that is? And then depending on how they answer that question, if they said, well, I've calculated that is 2 kilometers or 2 miles from my work, I know I'm dealing with a C. Right away, the C. If they say, well, you know, we got friends kind of in the area and we want to be closer to our friends, I know I'm dealing with an I. If the person is a D, they're going to say, because this is exactly what the neighborhood that I want to be in. They're very precise, and what they're saying is very precise. And an S is probably going to say, well, we're just kind of looking. We really haven't made any decisions, and they're going to be a little bit wishy-washy. So then I would try to set the appointment with somebody like that. And again, a high D or high I is going to drive a nicer car. An S is going to come probably in a minivan. A C is going to be in something very practical. What I do this is the question that I ask as soon as I'm going to show a house is, Nazar, where would you like to start? And how would you answer that question if I asked you that question?
What do you mean? Where would I like to start?
So we're in the house. What part of the house would you like to see first? Where would you like to start?
Oh, kitchen.
Okay. So you see how his body language and all that, just kitchen is very aloof, very off. So a D is not going to give me that, is going to give me a kitchen, because he's frustrated because he's thinking, well, if you're the agent, you should know where I want to start, where we should start. See how his reaction was? So an S is going to say something like, well, you know, maybe we'll start in the kitchen. And you see the word maybe? You see how S is? Because they want peace. They don't want to ruffle any feathers or anything. They want peace. And I'll say, oh, you know what? We love to have parties. So I'd love to see the backyard first, right? And a C, where would you guess a C would want to start? An analytical. Nazar, where would you guess?
I guess I'd want to like see the data of the house before I even saw it visually. Like I'd want to know that, you know, price per square foot, bedroom, bathroom, square footage, lot size, where the schools are.
So they're going to ask, can I see the sheet for that before we go? Or they're going to want to start in the basement, like the furnace, all the mechanical stuff. So that's how their brain works, very mechanical. So that will also help by just asking that, you know, okay, this is great. You know, different people like to see different things in the house. Where would you like, what part of the house would you like to see first? Part of the condo would you like to see first? Right? Like,
you know, male or female has a type. It's not, it has nothing to do with sex. It has all to do with the personality of the individual. Because I've met lots of women that are high C's, high D's. So it's not, you know, it's not gender specific.
No, but what I've learned over many years is that you're not selling a house, you're selling a home. And I had this client, he's been a great client now. You know, I go to the house, he says, "Oh, Jeff, this is the garage I've always wanted, the basement's the man cave I've always wanted." And the woman's an S, so she kind of quiet. And then she's in the kitchen. I can tell she's not feeling the kitchen. And Dees will say this, "Yeah, Jeff, we're going to call you later. We're going to put an offer on this tonight." And then later, you know, I call the next day and say, so what happened? Why didn't you? "Oh, we decided not against it," because, you know, the wife wasn't feeling the house. So I still feel that, you know, coming from a male perspective, happy wife, happy life. I think there's some questions there. Maybe I can look what these are. Please put the books in chat. Take a picture of the screen, the garage. Okay, I think that yeah.
Jeff, I'll
any
pop in. If there's any questions, I'll moderate for you, so you don't have to worry
Okay,
about it.
cool. Anything else, Nazar, you want to ask? Because again, I think that everybody should know their own disc. That's the most important part, because you got to know where you're coming from and how you have to mold to where people need to be. And again, like I was saying with scripting, if I'm coaching agents on scripting, knowing their disc, I'm going to tell them where their scripting needs work. Because like people like high eyes on my team, Nazar, I'm sure you'll appreciate this. Okay, land the plane. Like land the plane. You give me all the details, all the stories, just land the plane. Where are we going? Right? Because we just want the end game.
Yeah, I recently had a client that I was working with, and they asked me a question. And again, by text, I'm very short and to the point normally. And they were offended by that. And so,
Yeah.
you know, like that was not my intention, is to offend them. They were just upset by some of the words that I used. And so, you know, I had to quickly hop on the phone and like calm them down a little bit. And so I think as agent, the amount of your ability to be able to, you know, be a chameleon and change, or know how to properly speak in a way that's going to come across the way they want to be spoken to, is going to have, you know, it's going to be indicative of your, you know, the amount of sales you do, right? Because if you're, if you just have a natural type and you're like, well, you know, I'm a D, screw everybody else, then that's cool. You're going to work with people that are going to be okay with that personality style. But if you're not, you're going to lose out on lots of opportunities.
100%, because like I said, 80% of people are S's, and S's will frustrate any agent because if they feel they can't ever make up their mind, like it's always slow. But the slower you go with an S, the faster they move. That's why I have things like, are you comfortable? Your stomach will tell you, you know, we might have to see X amount of houses. You know what I mean? Because it just puts them at ease to be able to hear, because their back is up. Oh my gosh, he's going to sell me, right? Like you gotta eliminate that.
S's, you
And
might
here's
also see an S, you might think that they are, you know, wishy-washy. They're not really serious buyers, but they could absolutely be buyers. They just are not going to feel comfortable unless they really get to know you, you know, to not offend you, upset you, because they don't want any, you know, ruffle any feathers. But they're very motivated. They'll just go to someone else that's going to make them feel a little more comfortable.
that 100%. And that's the thing, you have to be careful with D's. And the other thing with a D, truly a D, is that you can alienate people, you don't even realize it. But the thing with D's, where their growth opportunities are, is they're comfortable, you know, killing and then moving on. If they don't get this, they don't lose sleep, they're just on to the next one. Well, instead of, you know, closing 2 out of 10, you might be able to close 6 or 7 out of 10 just by changing the way you are with people. You know, and like I said, C's are the easiest ones, and D's are the easiest ones to deal with, but they're just not there a lot. It depends what you lead with. Just because you're 99I, 99D, you got to know who you lead with. Like with my wife, she leads more with an S than a C, because a C is C's and D's are very cool personality types, and S's and I's are very warm. So you just got to be able to flow with who you flow with. But if you got a high I, ask them about, you know, their favorite things to do, right? Like you have to build that rapport with them, showing the house. Because if they don't feel that you're their friend, then they're never going to do business with you. And D's are not looking for a friend. D's are looking for outcomes. So D's are looking looking for, don't waste my time. What do I need to do? Like, I bought a car, I didn't even test drive it because I said, what's the number? What's the price? Is it the best? And we either agree, don't agree. And of course, my wife was freaking out because she says, how can you buy a car and not drive it? I said, well, I know I want that car. Right? It just doesn't bother me because if I make a mistake, I sell the car. Where S's don't want to make a mistake because they don't want change. They don't want to, risk anything.
Yep. So what are some other ways that we can utilize? I guess it's more than anything is just to be aware of the personality styles of those individuals, right? Because if you are dealing with a C, and a lot of times if you're dealing with engineers, it doesn't matter what type of engineer they are, just an engineer in general, they're naturally going to be a C. And that's when the high I's get into trouble because they'll do an open house and a high C will come in and ask certain questions. And if you don't know the answer and you're fumbling through what they feel should be super simple information that you should already know,
Yes.
automatically they will lose respect for you and they'll move on.
Yep,
right.
100%.
So
That's why you want to know those things, right? You want to know the basics about stuff. Like I was at a house the other day and I asked the agent, what year is this house? She said, it's 1971. I said, so how does it have aluminum wiring? And she looked at me like I had three heads. And then I go through the rest of the house and then she comes back. Oh yeah, it does have aluminum wiring. That is a basic question she should have known. 1970 houses usually have aluminum unless they removed it and put copper. Like it's just a simple question. And again, that turns me right off, right? Because I like that's something you should, that's a D and come on, you should know that. And again, people can deal with like D's can deal with the thing. That's a great question. I'll find out with you for you. They want to know that's a response to them. Yes, they might think you should know it, but they also want to know you're going to get them the information, right? And but again, just certain things like you got to be, that's why again I go back to scripting, how important it is for certain person, again, how you're wired. It's so important how you're wired because you think you're going to deliver everything the way you want things delivered, and you got to change who you are to who you're dealing with. So if you don't know your own disc, you got to know your own disc. And then maybe Zara, you can review these with their, if you guys do one-on-ones or something, sales manager or something, I'd get everybody to go through their disc. Because anytime there's a problem, people come to my desk and say, okay, what's the disc of the client? Right? We put the disc in follow-up boss. We put everything there so that everybody knows what they're dealing with. And if they don't know the disc of the person, that's usually the root cause of why they're having problems. Because when you understand, yep.
Sorry, how quickly can you assess that though? Like if you're meeting with a client for the first time, and are you just going through your scripts when you're meeting them? Like how do you assess what their disc profile is?
So it's again by asking kind of normal questions, right? You can it's the way they answer the questions lets you know what they are. Because like again, I assume everybody is an S until they present otherwise. D's are easy because D's are very direct. They ask direct questions. You don't have to beat around the bush with them. If you're asking them, I'm looking for this. I'm looking to be in Toronto. I want to be this. That's a D. An S is going to always say, well, we really haven't thought about it because they're afraid of the salesperson. So they don't want to give you very much information. An I on the phone is immediately going to be very friendly. Oh, okay. Hi. Oh, hi. How are you? Like that's just something they're going to do. And then, okay, so potentially an I, right? But I always assume, I get everybody on our team, assume you're dealing with an S unless it presents otherwise. C's are easy because they ask analytical questions. What's the lot size? What's the taxes? Like they ask all the number things. What's the square footage of the lot? What's the square footage of the house? Like just analyticals, right?
Sometimes D's and C's can be similar in the way in which they speak, right?
Yeah.
Because a C is going to ask you also a very direct question like a D would.
Yeah.
And
their combinations are like Steve Jobs was a DC. He wanted everything done yesterday and he wanted it perfect. They're hard. DCs are hard personality types because they have it's like OCD. It's tough because D wants an outcome and C wants perfection. So it's a tough thing, especially when you're buying a house, right? Because C's will think, well, what's that? Well, that's a settling crack. Well, why is there a settling crack? Because it's a 50-year-old house and that's normal. Like, like you have to be able to say things because they won't like that. A client, an agent of ours just lost a $5 million house. He did this high C. He was an accountant, did 4 home inspections because he did not believe that these were normal things. And then he calls 2 weeks later and say, yeah, everyone told me that these cracks are normal. Like, you know what I mean? $5 million. So yeah, it's interesting. But it's, again, it's all the questions, how they answer the questions, right? Like, and again, high eyes, if you write down, like, when you're wherever you're doing your calls, if you write down who, what, where, when, why, how, the why is always a funny one. Like, if your wife, your spouse comes down and they're wearing, something, you'll say, what made you put on that dress tonight, honey? Or sorry, well, why did you put on that dress? And then you'll get slapped. And then a softer way or a better way is, what made you put that dress on? Both will get you killed, but one just lands softer, right? So why is you got to be careful with the word why. But with a high eye, and again, a lot of agents, high eye, if calls are going sideways, look at that and find out how many questions you're asking that start with those things that aren't yes or no answers, right? Because the more you have them talking, you're going to pick up on their disc.
And that's genius. I never thought to like make that a part of our description when we put stuff into our CRM, to acknowledge that off the bat. Or obviously you can change it, right?
Yes.
Obviously you can have the if they're a married couple, the spouse and the significant other are going to be, they could be entirely different, and sometimes they're polar opposites. And so to be able to know exactly how to know both of them, know their personality types, and then be able to speak to them separately, because you can ask the same exact question different ways to be able to articulate to them how they would want to be, so they can give you the answer that you're looking for.
100%. Disc will change your whole sales career. 100%. If you embrace it and really take it to that level, to the next level, you'll move mountains, because you'll think, wow, I have a high D on my team, and she keeps coming back to me, and she's been on my team for years. She keeps coming. I can't believe how disc is helping me with, with these people, because just before I'd go home and be angry because these guys don't want to buy this house, but I just, nope, they're an S. And all of a sudden she just closes more. It's amazing how it works.
Yeah. I was listening to this reel from Barbara Cochran that was talking about Donald Trump and how he's a massive D personality. And it's interesting how, she views Donald Trump as, I mean, you can hate the guy or not, but
Whatever.
he's probably the best salesperson, on earth, if you will. And she was just talking about how he was able to like sell this huge apartment or this building that she was the broker of, and he was able to identify those individuals. She said about their weaknesses and then be able to exploit them. But I think in a disc environment, if you are able to identify very quickly and effectively who and what they are, and then speak to that, you're going to be able to communicate so much more effectively with them, and ultimately cause them to move in the direction you want them to move to.
Exactly. And like, we mentioned, because it's hard to get a D that everybody knows. And that's why I use Donald Trump as my example. But I'll tell you, a high I is Bill Clinton, right? He's a schmoozer. He's the influencer. He's, everybody, like, you use certain things. S's, I usually go through careers. Like if they tell me they're a teacher, like I ask them, in normal call that you're with a lead, okay, do you work in the area? Yes. Oh, I work here. Okay. So all of a sudden they've said they're a nurse. There's the S, right? If they say that they're, yeah, I'm a manager at the bank. Okay. Could be D, right? Like, so you're starting to think these things. DC, if he's the bank, right? Numbers, there's certain things you can pick up on. But I like to find out, once I find out where people work, that really helps me start getting that. But like I said, some eyes can be accountants, so the odd analytical that has personality type, because you always have a major and you always have a minor. And the other funny thing is with disc, when you do it, is you're going to see when you're being observed, if if your adaptive goes up or down, because with your adaptive behavior, you have a strong here, but maybe when you're, if you're a really strong D, maybe you're nicer when you're in a group, you want to come off like you're nicer than really you are, sort of thing. Right. So it's fascinating.
Not all
Right.
these are a-holes. There's
No, they aren't. We still need love. Yes, it's true. But it's just the way it just shows up at different times, because I think text for us is the worst thing possible, because it can be misconstrued so badly, and it's just not. I'm just trying to be efficient. I'm not trying to be bad, or you know what I mean? And that's But again, where I've gapped some of that, Nazar, with my own stuff, I put emojis now. Like I'll put some kind of thing with it, and then it's less harsh. For whatever reason, that works. High eyes will send all kinds of emojis. I will send one, and I get 15 back, and think, okay, this person's high eye.
Very good. Does anybody else have any other questions for Jeff? This is when you'd mute yourself or unmute yourself. Okay, awesome.
See, there was a deep comment. You see, this is where you unmute yourself. I would say, so if you have any questions now, just feel comfortable, unmute. D's very direct. Cut
Jeff,
from the same cloth.
We used to back in the day use the Tony Robbins free disc profile. I think they've changed that now. So where do you go to do your disc profile tests?
I will send out I'll send the link out to you. I'll get my min to get my phone and send it out, because there's a better one and it's free.
Okay, awesome, perfect. As soon as we get that, we'll include that in the thing, so that people can know or get it afterwards.
Yeah, if you can get it, there's people wanting to take it right after, so sooner the better. How's that for a D?
Yeah,
There
for
you
sure.
go.
Okay, awesome.
And again, even if you guys have direct reports, you should know what their disc is. Like, I won't interview anybody until I get a disc from them. Right.
Yep.
Because I want to know who I'm talking to. And then, if I'm looking for certain positions, like if I'm looking for admin or something, I'm looking for somebody with a higher C. There. Okay. Well, I will send that out in a text to you, Nazar, and you can send it out to anybody. If you guys have any questions, reach out, and thanks for having me today.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Appreciate it. It was
No
awesome.
problem. Okay. Take care, guys.
Yeah, you guys have